Hello there, and welcome to the Forts Pro League. And we're off, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to round one between Team Gyat and Team Dorset, where here we have on the left-hand side in the blue, it is Team Gyat, playing as the Warthog Commander, the quintessential late-game firepower team. We'll see how they handle things. Looks like a pretty standardized build so far. A little bit shy on the economy side, a little bit heavy on the tech side. We may see something akin to a very heavy weapons rush. I saw that trying to sell off your mine there for a moment. It wasn't actually selling off the mine. It was selling off the wood behind it. This is the kind of build you do when you're trying to sell off literally everything to bootstrap your early game as much as possible. And they're gonna need it because they're playing against their opponents on the right-hand side. In the red, it is Team Dorset playing as the Overdrive Commander. Overdrive Commander, quite popular, I'm going to describe them as promiscuous because they're everywhere and lacing with every strategy. Looks like we're going to see some early game aggression. Overdrive, one of those commanders that works well both for late game and for early game, kind of struggles in between. Typically we see it with early game because it gives the option to actually get out those upgraded tools pretty early and actually survive long enough to make the mid game. Looks like Jim and Tar are gearing up for what is probably a rocket rush. I imagine a few shotguns mixed in. I suppose it's possible they're going to be going late game with it, but given this build order, it's looking pretty rocket rushy to me. The other side, we do see, oh wow, interesting switch up. So Gengar over here in the top is going for laser weaponry, whereas Butterdog down here is going for, this is going to be a nuke rush. Quite a quick one at that too. Interesting combo. The lasers and the swarm missiles tend to work pretty well together, as swarm missiles defeat energy weapons, or swarm missiles defeat energy shields, and lasers are able to penetrate through the shut down hole that the missiles leave behind. Similarly, the nuke with its massive AoE does a lot of damage, weakens a lot of struts, making the penetrative power of the plasma beam that much stronger. Interesting note, we are seeing economic play out of a heavy economy play out of Team Red, Team Dorset here. While they do have some flak and some anti-air going up, they are actually just going straight to heavy weapons. I'm a little surprised because they had a build order which typically presents itself as more aggressive play. But one of the joys of Overdrive is, well, with the bonus upgrade speed, they can just kind of mass upgrade their economy, which is what they're doing now, and then go straight to heavy weapons. Because with the maximum economy, they can pretty much do whatever they want, because they can afford everything. You see, we still have some pretty lightweight bases here for Team Gyat. Barely any defenses, but they don't need them at this point in time because, well, Red Team doesn't have any offenses, so they can get greedy with it, and indeed they are. We do see Butterdog in lower fort, having sacrificed 2 of their mine positions for weapons. They are now upgrading their mines to make up for it, bringing them back up to something closer to a 4-mine economy, compared to, Tar, who's sitting there with 5 upgraded mines, which is just kind of a lot of upgraded mines. Flak coming in to save the day. Nuke shot out of the sky, not even making it halfway across the field, which is exactly the thing that Team Dorset wants to see. We do see the difference in timings here, as the red team doesn't have any of their heavy weapons placed, or even close to it really. Whereas over here, the blue team has their first plasma 2/3 of the way completed. This is a fairly substantial difference between the teams, so Team Gyat is going to have the first shots fired, at least for heavy weapons. And that can make a massive difference for those who have seen. Just managing to gun down the other opponent's heavy weapons while they're still under construction is a massive benefit. joys of firing first. We see Buzzsaw doing some good damage, showing some weakness in Jim's base. But I think it's probably not... Yeah, it's not going to be enough, as the nukes just can't make it across the field. Team Gyat just doesn't have the map control needed to actually get those weapons reliably through the open air. Team Dorset just has quite sufficient anti-air, and Team Gyat's gonna have to do something about that before they can actually get the missiles across. Might even the EMP is getting across. We do see a sniper out of Butterdog, or at least, well, obviously there is a sniper because the missiles are being launched. But we do see the sniper being used and more offensively now, trying to door snipe some of that anti-air as it's opened. Additionally, we see an upgraded sniper coming out as well. The nukes fly. We'll see if the fire beam comes to make a play. It does. It keeps the nuke safe for a little bit, but it's not quite enough. We'll likely see the plasma beam utilized here in a moment to try to break through just through the fronts of some of those anti-air nests, just to shut them down entirely. On the fire beam, one of the perfect complements for the nuclear weaponry, as it allows them to clear the sky, burning out any and all anti-air and flak projectiles, and in doing so, preventing the nuke from getting shut down, which is what we're about to see here. Fire beam. Oh, but it's not enough. The nuke gets hit out of launch and goes wild, slamming into the underside of Butterdog's base, dealing some technically dealt core damage, but it dealt less than 0.5% of core damage, meaning that the UI did not update and that Butterdog still reads as having 100% health. That, talk about a close shave. Managing to get hit by your own missile for core damage, but not taking perceptible amounts of core damage. It's kind of funny. I don't think I've seen that before. We see the counter laser fire. Gengar attempting to door snipe Tar. Doesn't quite make it this time. That buzzsaw flailing wildly at the opponents, but the team door snip is fully defended against such things. Once again, a beautiful showing from the fire beam. Slams into Tar's base. No significant damage taken. Tar is a blade of armor meant for take those kind of hits. Similarly, Gengar took a hit from Jim's Howitzer. Nasty repair build, but no substantial damage received. That's going to trigger an anti-air response for Team Gyat, as that they now realize that they're going to have to defend against a Howitzer. A beautifully placed energy shield. Gengar reflects Tar's fire beam back from whence it came. Once again, the Howitzer flies. Heavy hit, but a lot is happening right now. The nuke makes it across. Tar takes catastrophic damage, losing both heavy weapons and secondary explosions, knocking out some of Tar's HP. In the midst of that, Gengar lost a fire beam to a counter sniper, so a door snipe. So with the exchange, Team Dorset here on the right-hand side in the red definitely got the shorter end of the stick. But they're not out of it just yet. Gengar did receive some damage in the process and will be not able to fully defend the nuke, although the fire beam still exists, but it's not enough. Once again, Tar takes another hit directly to the front of their base. Tar goes down to 47% HP, reeling in damage from that heavy explosion. Remember that Team Gyat is playing as the Warthog commander, so whenever they press that button and launch that nuke, it does even more damage than it would normally. It's going to deal extra chip damage to Tar's core at really anywhere it hits. Tar now has to be incredibly careful, as they are once again rebuilding their heavy weapon in the place where it once was, but it's close enough to their core that when it explodes, it's going to deal damage to themselves. Like the secondary explosions, there are threats. The nuke flies. We see sacrificial sandbags placed on Tar's base. This keeps the nuke damage away from the core and anything else critical. Empowered plasma beam. Reflecting off an energy shield and running wild, dealing all kinds of damage all over the place, but nothing focused. No deep cuts, as it were. Howitzer once again flies. Oh! Now that's a lot of damage. Gengar getting bisected. Losing just about every weapon they have. The Fire Beam from Butterdog. Managing to get out their own energy weapons. Igniting the Nuke along the way, causing it to deal extra damage that it impacts Tar's base. Another hefty repair bill, but once again, nothing of value is lost. Gengar looking a little unhappy with their current living situation. Forced to take Howitzer round after Howitzer round as again, Tar just takes just a little off the top, or perhaps a little off the bottom of Butterdog. Team Blue seem to be getting chopped off at the knees, losing everything below their core, which is not a great experience, but at least in Butterdog's case, it was mostly just an anti-air dangle, as their primary weapons are their nukes. Once again, the Fire Beam doing a wonderful job of letting the nuke cross, and once again Tar catches it with an outcropping of sandbags. Tar at this point is just the testing range, the firing range, just eating missile after missile. Which is not a fun experience to endure, but it is Tar's challenge at this point. It is worth noting that due to Team Dorsnip's choice to develop weapons later and instead focus on their economy, they have had a substantial economic advantage for the entirety of this match. And that's going to leave them with a level of inevitability, such that if Team Butterdog or Team Gyat does not change the status quo, we're going to see further and further developments out of Team Dorsnip. That's just going to outpace their opponents. You can kind of see that here. We can quite clearly see that here, actually. Good example is Jim's base here. Look at how much metal is present compared to Gengar, who has a single piece of metal. It's a metal door. That's it. Obviously, metal is not the most cost-efficient armor, cost-efficient way of defending. However, it is tanky, and it doesn't have to be replaced. It can be replaced with wood if push comes to shove. And that's... Oh! Gengar losing almost their entire core to automatic anti-air fire from their own team. Well, that's just unfortunate. Gengar getting knocked down all the way to 51% from that little outburst. As the nukes fly once again. A heavy hit. And powered warhead does a lot of damage. Tar hitting 0 monies. Not able to fully repair. It's going to take a bit to recover from that. God, that Howitzer. It hits so very hard. Once again, buzzsaws flying across the field, doing a little chip damage. Surprised to see anything on either of any of Dorsnip's base that can take damage from the buzzsaw at this point, given how much metal they have just laying around. The Fire Beam unable to protect the nuke this time, but still a little bit of damage. Splashes around Tar's base, not enough to make the difference, but certainly enough to keep them at bay for a moment. Tar still only has 1 plasma beam, although they're working on producing more. They currently have a fire beam and a plasma beam in production right in front of their core, right where the nuke is most liable to hit. As a second howitzer is being produced for Jim. A second howitzer spells death for their opponents. Oh, another heavy hit. That's such a hefty repair bill. Rockets shut down once again. Team Gyat doing a bit better job of controlling the airspace between the forts. Jim's rockets just not doing anything at this point. But once that second howitzer completes, being able to fire 2 rounds, oh my god, this man's going up to a 3rd howitzer. Well, you know, I don't blame them. Jim's been left to their own devices for quite some time, as most of the fire seems focused on Tar. That's mostly owing to the position of the nukes and the angles from which they come. Firebeam can just protect a bit better. Tar using the plasma beam to burn the nuke out of the sky, which, you know, I'm a fan of that, especially given that Tar is fully aware that Jim's getting lethal amounts of Howitzer on the field. The thing about Howitzers is they penetrate a few slices of wood before detonating. So what ends up happening is if you have multiple Howitzers, the first one digs a hole and leaves a lot of splash damage. The second one, because of the damaged struts and damaged base in general, after they taking damage from the first, goes very deep, like over-penetrating the base deep. So when you have this kind of base here, or, you know, big, thick, and chunky, it all goes away, and the howitzer detonates inside. That's just kind of how that works. So going up to 3 howitzers is very often overkill, because it's just that much damage. But, you know, with a base as thick as Gengar's, I mean, why not go up to 3? Start blasting. Usually the reason you go up to 3 is because one will get blasted out of the sky, as you see. And just like that, Gengar falls. Team Giat loses a player, and with that player down, Butterdog's ability to land their warhead and swarms just decreased substantially. Again, but Butterdog does have a fire beam of their own, so they'd still have a chance. And where there's a nuke, and there's always a way to win the game. Oh, and the second howitzer follow-up detonates on the external energy shield. That'll keep Butterdog in the game for a moment, but that moment is passing. As the howitzer, third howitzer follows up and leaves everything destroyed. Ladies and gentlemen, Team Dorset wins round 1. And we're off to round 2, where here we have on the left-hand side, it is Team Dorset. The sides have been swapped as Team Dorset is now in the blue, playing on balls, the map. More interestingly, they're playing as the Shoutout commander. Rather interesting commander. They're going to get to have a little bit of fun, because their opponents are also playing Shoutout. Team Giat here on the right-hand side in the red. We get to see some interesting strategies here. One of the benefits of Shoutout, you mostly see them with heavy weapons, or I suppose more hybrid style weapons, is they take the lighter variants of the heavy weapons, things like fire beams, 20 mils, things that I generally consider, I tend to describe them as hybrid weapons, and it temporarily upgrades them into heavy weapons. This means that you can get the effect of heavy weapons while only paying, oh Lord have mercy. It's a success. After all these years, we have a second player who has successfully managed to do the ball swing. Oh my god. And they're both doing it. Oh, he didn't make it. Uh-oh. Oh lord, it's bad. You gotta grapple on. Actually, you might want to grapple on down here now. Yeah, I was gonna say, you gotta... Oof. You gotta focus on dangling. Yep, because that's gonna happen. And it's gone. Alright. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to see some more top-tier plays from top-tier players, make sure to check back on this coming Saturday. In just a few days as of release of this video, we're going to be starting the playoffs for the Forts Pro League. So make sure to check it out because we've got more madness, more top-tier plays from more top-tier players. And we'll get to see how these players handle this absolute madness of a round here. It is worth noting that despite Jim's loss of their core, they are not entirely out of the game just yet. One of the abilities of Shoutout Commander is that it lets them place a barrel, which acts as a second point of control for the well, now deceased player. For the purposes of participating in the game, the barrel allows them to, well, continue. But what it doesn't do is it doesn't count as, well, Jim still being alive. So once Tar falls, Jim is... It just doesn't count as being alive, so the match will still end. Oh, that's bad. Yeah. I think Team Gyat knows what's up here. And they know that if they destroy either of these, then Jim is out of the game. Like, forever, because he won't have enough storage to get anything done. Which is really unfortunate for Jim, given these circumstances. At least Jim still has enough income to continuously build things. God, it has been so long. The only other player I've seen pull off ball swing in a competitive scene is Eaton. And they won their match. So this is lovely that we get to see it again. I'm so happy. Typically, doing this kind of thing is rare, not because it can't be done, but because doing so sets you behind some substantial amount. If you compare this, let's compare Tar's base, as nice and defensive as it is. It's playing against opponents who already have heavy weapons tech and their weapons on the field. I mean, he's going up to triple fire beam here already. And wouldn't you know it, it's triple swarm missile. So things are not particularly going in Team Dorsnip's favor here. I'm going to see just how far away things actually are for them. In just a moment here. I like to see the barrels everywhere. Given this is a mirror match, we see barrels on both sides, just all over the place. A barrel here to allow connection and control over these missile silos just by losing access to this. Fire beams launch. Energy shields galore. I think Tar knows full well that it's lasers, given the, well, lasers are not even hidden. And so Tar is keeping the energy shield there, thus keeping their core safe. Not that there's a great angle, because that's fully behind, like just deep behind the ball. Poor Jim here, struggling to develop anything owing to a general lack of economic capabilities. Would love to see a sniper out of Jim. A sniper is easily the most cost-efficient thing they can use in terms of, well, it's cheap to place, cheap to fire, and it does devastating damage in the hands of any high-tier player, such as Jim. Interesting that we see mortars out of Tar here, and like going straight to the heavy mortars. I imagine this is to apply some pressure onto their opponents, as going straight to heavy weapons, well, at this point would delay any kind of pressure out of Team Dorsnip a few extra minutes. And that is asking for trouble, given that Team Gyat has already managed to have 7 minutes being completely uncontested, which is a lot of time. Poor Jim. Doesn't have a core anymore, has already been destroyed, and yet is still taking a majority of the damage. Which, to be fair, is probably the best case scenario for Team Dorsnip, as that allows Tar the option to do anything they want. Oh, that's bad. Bad for Jim, that is. Jim losing 3 out of 4 mines. And here come the mortars. Almost perfectly aimed, nearly taking out that barrel. This could be a lethal amount of mortars here. This is a notable weak spot on the balls. If that spot is hit, massive damage. Oh yeah. All right, so yeah, they're literally using the heavy shots, expensive as they may be, to delay the inevitable slam of those mortars, because Gengar was not safe. Gengar was very close to receiving lethal damage there, and that was Team Gyat reacting immediately, saying, "Hey, we need to burn everything to give us just a few extra seconds, because otherwise Gengar's gonna explode." And that would be particularly unfortunate for Red Team, but alas, Team Gyat survives intact. A little worried for them for a moment there. Fire beams burning on through. Tar not able to defend against firepower of that magnitude. Yes, unfortunately, Jim losing access to so many things does a lot of damage. It is worth noting that Tar traded bases here. Jim lost their economy and was going to be effectively out of the game as they're sitting on one mine. So Tar gifted this middle ball over to Jim, granting them access to all this economy here. And in doing so, enabled them to reconstruct their basic goods. Oof. Losing 2 more mines. At this point, Jim does have these mines down here, which will enable them to stay alive for the moment, as they're still sitting on a 4-mine economy, but it's looking not good. It's looking not good for Jim here, as those mortars are trying to take out that barrel. Team Gyat knows where that barrel is, and they want it gone. Uh-oh. Okay, so we finally do see some proper heavy weapons coming out from Tar. These 20mm will upgrade to cannons once Dorset activates their commander ability, and that can deal actually strong damage to their opponents here. I'm liking the sniper here. It's just managing to hit the nuke. It might be able to get it here, actually. Yeah, it does. 1 launcher down. You won't be able to get more than that, at least not with that sniper position. But that will delay devastation, or at least mitigate some of it for a moment. Oh, did he get the snipe? He gets the door snipe. I'm telling you, man, snipers just amazingly powerful. They do great work all the time. And there's another attack of the fire beams. These cannons have been revealed, and so the fire beams want them gone. Gengar applying notable mortar pressure, but the anti-air from Dorset is enough to do it. Enough to keep things intact. A dangling sniper position down here for Team Gyat. As once again, the 20mm fly. Commander active ability for Team Dorset. Unfortunately timed, as those... Oh ho ho! That nuke taken out of the sky at the last possible second. As I was saying, unfortunately timed commander active for Team Dorset, as they were unable to upgrade their 20mm due to their 20mm being on cooldown. Therefore unusable. I love this. Jim is just being a little gremlin with the sniper. He's not doing anything with this other than being annoying, but being annoying is a wonderfully effective tactic at times. Not a whole lot of anti-air remains for Team Gyat, but it is enough to shut down the relatively minimal investment into mortars remaining from Team Dorset. Double nuke splash to the underside of Jim's ball. It's not enough to do any damage. At least no significant damage. Snipey is lost, but nothing of value. There's the upgraded cannon fire. Taking out a couple upgraded mines and dealing some wonderful damage over to Team Gyat. but it's not enough to break them. And Team Gyat replies with, "It's more nukes." Solid damage. I wonder how low this dangle will go. The lower it goes, the steeper the angle of the warheads. If it gets low enough, it may even be able to directly target Tar's core, which would be an interesting development. I think that's possible. Like if it gets all the way down here, the nuke will come underneath. Maybe gets that angle. That's a rough angle though. That is also an incredible amount of fire beams. Ooh, Butterdog taking a direct mortar hit as the nukes launch. Splash near harmlessly against the terrain. Those 20mm, I mean, they're going wild. They're up, they're down, they're all over the place. But what they aren't is dealing notable amounts of damage. What they are doing... Oh, that was so close. What those 20mm are doing is they are charging Team Dorsnip's commander ability, which means once they activate their commander ability, which I imagine will happen right now, Tar will be able to fire multiple cannon rounds all over the place, which is exactly what they're doing. And another fire beam falls. Team Gyat slowly being worn down as Jim is still the punching bag on the other side. Jim at this point is just tanking missiles just left and right and honestly doing a pretty good job of it. I am curious how this is going to proceed because as it stands, Team Gyat still pretty firmly in the lead and Tar for Team Dorsnip is taking some pretty heavy risks. They're still intact, and this, for the moment, certainly victory is within either team's reach and grasp. It's just, it's a bit precarious for Team Dorsnip right now, and Team Gyat is looking to burn them out of the sky. Oh! In what may have been a lethal volley, Butterdog defends themselves from the cannon rounds via the fire beam. That was close. 3 cannons splashing into Butterdog's core. I probably would have survived that, but that would have hurt, and that would have been close. And there's just a chance he may not have survived that, actually. And we will never know, for Butterdog defend themselves. As more nukes are fired. Butterdog with the portaled nukes coming across straight high in the sky. Those are scary. Those are the scary ones. The ones from below, as terrifying as they may be, generally have to get past Jim, and Jim is a husk with a sniper, just being a bit of a harassment obstacle. Whereas those nukes going across the top, if they hit Tar in the right place, and there was a lot of places considered the right place, then Tar is just gonna collapse, just like entirely. Like he's gonna be gone. Not gonna be much left. 20mm is doing a good job of splashing damage around. Fully charges Dorsnip's commander ability. Not much to capitalize on, though. Tar doesn't quite have the ability to fire their weapons right now, which is unfortunate for them. They want to be firing their 20mm during the commander active so they get upgraded into full-on cannons. Worth noting that Jim managed to get out a buzzsaw and chop off the large dangle. That'll reduce the angle that those warheads approach, thus reduce the risk they present. Man, that nuke, that's so close. That fire beam, the fire beams from Butterdog have been MVP so far. That is so anxiety-inducing levels of close, as it's once again building up. Dorsnip is 1% off of their commander active. If they can get any okay, they're no longer 1% off. Now, commander active, Butterdog takes some hits, core down to 75%, and swing and a miss, doesn't follow up with the additional cannons, but loses 2 cannons in the process. That's probably not a good trade. As much as I love to say it, HP is just a number. It's just another resource to use. Butterdog traded 25% of their core HP for Tar's 2 cannons, which is not a bad trade, assuming that, you know, Butterdog isn't eliminated in the next few seconds. This fire beam is working wonders. As honestly, Team Gyat's just pulling further and further ahead here. It's not fast, but it is happening. It looks like Tar has managed to develop additional mortars. This will increase potential damage output at the cost of anti-air. Not a lot of cannon follow-up available. Tar with only the triple cannons. Hits Butterdog directly, but isn't enough to end him. Just can't get through that much armor. Oh, triple firing plasmas. You'll love to see it. You know someone's rich when they can afford to fire 15k worth of energy in a single click. That's just a lot of damage. Is that a natural? That is a natural plasma. Ooh. Secondary explosions dealing damage to Butterdog's core as the cannons once again fly. And again, Tar taking hit after hit. The plasmas, they burn deep. Yeah, not able to pinpoint to focus fire those plasmas to penetrate all the way through. But Tar doesn't have enough defenses around their weapons to defend that kind of firepower. Like we see Tar sitting here with 4 or 5 doors on that one cannon, but the rest of them, they have 2 doors, which is enough to survive a single laser. But I mean, look at this. Butterdog sitting on, what is that, 6, 7, 8, 9 lasers? Enough to defend 1 laser is not going to help against 9, at least not substantially. Once again, Jim takes some nukes to the face. Getting their ball just shaved clean. Tar's still trying to send mortars across, as Butterdog taking more cannons directly to the face, down to 37%. Butterdog's defenses haven't been penetrated yet, but it's just splash damage at this point. Those cannons have been pounding them for quite some time. The distraction mortar is the only mortar that makes it across and actually deals good damage by virtue of breaking the energy shield. I didn't expect that. Once again, Butterdog taking hits to their core, down to 19% and dropping 13%. Ooh, boy. Butterdog now activating return to senders around their core. That's going to be a problem. A problem for Team Dorset. A very smart play for Butterdog here. With this much economy, they can afford to throw on some return to senders without breaking their own bank. I mean, look at how thick and chunky their wind block is. It's huge. And once those return to senders come online, which it looks like they'll be free to do given the fire beams are still defending them, then well, now Tar doesn't have a win condition, not without changing substantially. Oh no. Is it going to collapse? Oh, it's close, but it doesn't quite collapse. Tar getting door sniped once again. These lasers, the fire beams, they burn everything. A wonderful hit. It looks like Tar recognizes the problem with the return to senders. As there it is. Massive damage. Tar loses all of their weapons. This is not what you want to be when you're Team Dorset, and this is exactly where you want to be if you're Team Gyat. Tar losing all of their weapons except for, what is that, 220s? It's looking pretty rough. The worst part about it, or perhaps the best part about it, is that now Team Dorset needs to develop new tech and new weapons in order to deal damage to Team Gyat. Owing to the presence of those return to senders, Team Dorset now needs to develop swarm missiles or EMPs, and both of those solutions require notable amounts of map control, which they have been contesting the map, but they certainly don't have map control. And so that's going to give Team Gyat lots of time to do what they want. What they want appears to be send nukes. That's something I can absolutely understand. Look at that. Poor Jim. Is down to 2 mines and just about nothing else. Their barrel is in jeopardy. Jim may wish to consider adding an additional barrel somewhere else, because if they don't, chances are about to get eliminated here entirely. They've done a great job of participating despite losing their core within the first few seconds of the match. But I think their time is upon them. Oh. Oh. I was about to say, Jim, you gotta get rid of that dangle. It's a liability, and it was. And he got rid of it. I wonder if it would be in Team Dorsnip's best interests to give Jim the center ball once again, and just leave that in a more permanent setting, because this is looking like it's going to get bad. Yep, and that's the elimination. No, I think they were giving up. I think Jim had given up entirely. Said, nope, just give it over to Tar. The base is lost, the eco is gone. Let it go. Look at that. The lasers just penetrating everything. Tar once again losing their weaponry to, this time, focused burn from multiple heavy lasers. More interestingly, Butterdog is developing a triple howitzer. Looks like they've been saving it till they have multiple howitzers ready to go. The first howitzer makes it clean across the map. Maybe not so clean, but across the map nonetheless. Second howitzer coming online in a few seconds, as it's lasers everywhere. It's so many lasers. I think Team Gyat has got this. They've been whittling down their opponents for some time, and at this point, it's less whittling and more chunking. Tar isn't quite beaten just yet. They still have weaponry. They're still firing on all cylinders. Oh no. My poor soul. A perfectly timed door snipe. Butterdog loses 3 howitzers and a vast majority of their energy production, disconnecting their missile launchers and shutting down their portals. It's a catastrophe. Butterdog will survive, mostly because they still own 2 additional expansions. Both of their other balls are fully intact and operational, including their economic development, so this is not crippling, but it is going to slow them down substantially. Triple Nuke now heading to Tar's primary, actually managing to get shut down. Tar still owns enough anti-air to keep the place mostly safe. But those nukes, for those who are familiar, that's inevitability right there. Eventually, they're just going to hit something, and it's going to be bad. It's going to be really bad for Tar. Once again, Team Dorset largely immune to disconnections, as they have the extra barrels everywhere. Surprisingly, the triple buzzsaw is being quite effective at just splashing damage all over the place. It's still strange to me to see fire beams hitting so deep into Tar's base and not hitting the core. Tar's core is just not there. Buzzsaws swinging a miss, as once again Team Gyat opens fire with all weaponry, dealing less damage than I expected, but damage nonetheless. I'm at this point struggling to see Tar's win condition here. Tar doesn't have notable weaponry outside of 2 nukes in construction. And while those are cool, Team Gyat has had dominance in the map control for quite a long time now. And in doing so, did this man just build a chain reaction of barrels in a place that is exposed to tar? I truly hope Tar sees that and takes advantage of that. Not that he really has weapons to do so, but I truly hope. Because I want to see secondary explosions. Nukes once again flying, not making it across the fields, or at least not doing damage in the process. Oof. Another heavy burn. Looks like Team Gyat's just gonna be punching through the front here. And you know, that's a good strategy. Given Tar's core is substantially out of reach, their best strategy is just pick away at the edges until there's nothing left. Wow. The nukes make it across the field uncontested, both splashing directly into the front of Gengar's base. Gengar, having been largely untouched for a vast majority of the game, is able to shrug them off without substantial issue. But that is a concern that Gengar will have to handle at some point soon in their perspective. I'm surprised Tar hasn't put a barrel up in the top base, the top expansion just yet. Because it seems a little prudent to do so, given that it's liable to experience disconnections. Looks like Gengar is adding in a little extra anti-air to assist with the whole missile experience. The nukes will still land. Gengar taking substantial damage, knocking their core down to 67%. I am surprised that Team Gyat is letting this happen, given the amount of map control they've had access to, and, well, frankly, still mostly have. It's a surprise to me that Dorset is able to get nukes across with any reliability, let alone, you know, multiple nukes in succession. So Gengar taking damage here feels a little unexpected to me, but thus is the way of the warhead. As long as Gengar doesn't let that happen too many more times, they'll be okay. And once again, Tar is launching the warheads. Warheads ignited. And impact. Gengar takes some heavy hits, but nothing critical. Once again, Tar is perforated. Perforated by laser fire. That is a lot of fire. That really is a lot of fire. Looks like Tar adds in a barrel. Oh my god, that's just so many reflections. That's a lot of laser. Looks like Tar finally getting in a barrel, but doing so in a location where it has a direct line of sight to the enemy fire beam. So that's probably gonna come back to bite them. The lasers. I'm wondering. Yeah, I was about to say, is Team Gyat would benefit strongly from howitzers here, or even standard cannons for that matter. And I know Butterdog was building them earlier, so I'm surprised to see that it's taken them this long to redevelop them, because I think they had the right idea. A little bit of friendly fire here. The swarm missiles and nuke damaged by the preemptive anti-air, sending the nuke into the side, causing it to wipe out Tar's barrel there and temporarily disconnecting that expansion. Buzzsaw's doing buzzsaw things. As here comes the fire beams. Attempting to keep that warhead alive. Doesn't quite make it, but ignites a vast majority of Tar's base in the process. Gyat now successfully defending against those nukes relatively consistently, having established enough anti-air to shut them down. Howitzers are beginning the fire once again from Team Gyat. This time, however, Tar doesn't have the cannons in place to door snipe those howitzers. Meaning those howitzers are going to be there for a while. How bold How bold are you? Just building that out there. They do put defenses on it, but still. Howitzer flies is shut down. Nukes fly. Mostly shut down. Howitzer shut down again. The amount of energy shields on Tar's base, it's just constantly reflecting. Just constantly reflecting the fire beams. Tar is continuing to roll the dice with the warheads, which is generally the appropriate solution. Warheads, as devastating as they may be, always just kind of have a chance to get through. Like, you can never guarantee that they can be shut down, even with, you know, effectively infinite anti-air. There's just always a chance they get through. So if you launch enough of them, you're gonna get it eventually, even if that eventually is, you know, several hours. This case is probably not several hours, but it's not far off. So continuing to roll that dice, just in case, is absolutely worth it. So we see Nuke landing, once again. More damage splashed across Tar's base. Interesting note, Team Gyat did manage to destroy Tar's energy shield around this guarding the eco of this expansion, which is pretty much the sole purpose of the nuke at this point. Like, that's the primary goal, you know, knock out the energy shields the lasers can pen through and actually, you know, eliminate the expansion itself. As getting to Tar's core is not impossible, but difficult to do without first having eliminated a majority of Tar's expansions. So you want to whittle away at it one at a time. Like, eliminate the defenses around the expansion, eliminate the expansion, and then go for Tar's core afterward. That's been their strategy so far, and I'm surprised to see that they're aiming at so many. That's the 4 howitzers. Yes, I'm surprised to see them targeting Tar's primary core without first eliminating the extensions here, or at least dramatically reducing them, and in Tar's ability to defend the primary core. Because with the angles so strictly restricted, it's quite difficult to get an efficient shot on Tar's core, so you have to effectively just do inefficient shots over and over and over again, which is fine, but give such inefficient shots make for a relatively simple defense, and therefore increasing the efficiency by giving yourself access to more angles, or just generally reducing Tar's ability to defend to repair. No! Why did you let it through? And just like that, Gengar falls. Or at least their core falls. As you remember, the red team, Team Gyat, is playing as the Shoutout commander. And they have barrels everywhere, so while their core falls, they still have full control over everything. So they lost their core and just about nothing else. Gengar still has access to all their weapons and largely is unaffected. It's worth noting the core does have a substantial amount of economy. You'll see that they did lose some anti-air in that process, letting the warheads fly through even further. Wow. 4 howitzers getting shut down. One of the things about howitzers is they tend to get better per howitzer, not because they deal more damage or anything, but because they will overpower the anti-air. The point defense can be overwhelmed by adding additional howitzers. Generally speaking, once you get up to 4 howitzers, the point defense, the anti-air just can't keep up. So it is genuinely impressive to see Tar has managed enough anti-air and general map control, even including manually fired weapons like the buzzsaws in that mess, to shut down 4 howitzers. That's a lot. Standard cannons coming up from Team Yacht to assist, as they have, I think, correctly identified that the lasers are being pretty hard countered by the energy shields. Buzzsaw versus Firebeam. Buzzsaw wins this time. Once again, the Howitzer volleys. Pretty reasonable damage, clean shaving the front of Tar's ball, while the follow-up does a little bit of damage to Tar's eco, taking out a mine in the process. Tar developing a return to sender. So that's definitely not a perfect return to sender, but it's definitely enough to send shots back from which they came up. Whoa-ho-ho-ho. Now that was a hit. Getting a beautiful shot. Using the 20s to take out those howitzers, because those howitzers were going to deal extraordinary damage. Looks like Team 2 is finally focusing the external expansions here, which I think is the right call. If they can take out this economy, Tar's going to be in an exceptionally rough position. Additionally, if they can actually get a firing angle from these fire beams down below, they can get a straight shot onto the core, which is the real benefit, because you can't hit this core from on top because there's terrain in the way, so you have to hit it from below, which means you have to cross through this expansion. The expansion has to not be there in order to take out Tar, at least reliably. It is possible to use mortars to hit the back of the core here. Similarly, you can do things like tier 3s, or there's a couple other tricks you can do. We did see a Magna Beam to wrap shots around. It's not impossible to hit Tar's base, to hit Tar's core from angles that aren't below. But it's quite difficult to do, therefore you generally want to focus on that. Oh, devastating hit. Taking out the cannon and the barrel in the process. Oof, look at that. Gyat just expanding even more. Up to 5 cannons now, let's see. So Butterdog alone has 5 standard cannons, an array of 4 fire beams, an array of 4 howitzers, 2 swarm missiles, warhead, and another array of 3 fire beams. Not to mention a bristling nest of anti-air. Like, this is just an incredible amount of damage output. And Tar has been tanking it for quite some time. It's up to 40 minutes tanking it now, which is a little impressive. Oof. Honestly, what's keeping Tar in this game is that a majority of the damage output sent across the field toward them is impacting the terrain rather than Tar themselves. So we're not actually seeing Tar take most of the hits so much as not take most of the... Well, that was a shot and a half. Yeah, we're seeing Tar... Like, look at that. 2 plasma beams dealing 0 damage. Although that one was great. That sent a nuke back into the backside of Tar's ball here. It's not enough. That's the kill shot. While Tar is not eliminated, loss of all of those mines, or at least most of those mines, is going to dramatically reduce Tar's ability to do anything. This is a base that looks like it's been killed and it just hasn't realized it yet. Tar isn't quite out of the game. They still have their energy array, their energy block, and with that they can fire their weapons, and because they're using nukes, there's just always a chance, as we see that one get suspiciously close to making it through. Oh. The return descender dealing devastating damage. Oh, the cascade. Oh no. Not like this. Butterdog losing all of their weapons to... Oh no. Not like this. God, you were so far ahead. You were closing in for the kill. And now, in just a moment's reversal, Tar has dealt devastating damage to Team Gyat. That's, I'm gonna be honest, I didn't consider that as an option. I mean, it could always happen. It's just... Oh no. Look at that. Butterdog no longer has the ability to triple fire their plasmas. Butterdog down to a whopping 5 fire beams, down from about 15. Or at least 15 heavy weapons. A wonderful shot from Gengar, taking out 2 more of Tar's swarm missiles. Tar attempting to slowly rebuild their economy, but that's a very slow process, and there's still substantial damage heading their way. If Team Gyat can manage to recover for just a little bit longer. Oh, Nuke makes it across. Doing some damage, exposing Flak, which I think is going to get sniped here. Yeah, I was going to say, Gengar's probably doesn't care to try to defend that. Or prevent that, at least. Looks like Gengar does have a fully operational and recently developed mortar battery, which will be used to great effect. More missiles launched. Clean pass through, no damage for that nuke. A little bit of over penetration. Something Tar has been experiencing for the entirety of this match. I think those mortars were on refire, so we're not going to see a lot of damage out of them. Any damage out of them. So it's just a clean miss. Yeah, I think it's focusing a bit more on anti-air because they don't want to have to deal with those. It's like the only thing Tar can do at this point is hope for another door snipe off of a return to sender, or get those nukes to land. And given both of those threats are near entirely in Gyat's control, they're just saying no, don't do that. Not happening. Butterdog is still recovering from the last experience, redeveloping their wind turbine block. Looks like they're also doing a giant dangle, which will be used to direct fire missiles without having to portal them. I was gonna say that sniper should have an angle on at least one of these mortars. Looks like it's got probably an angle on 3 of them. As much as I would love to see Tar snipe those out, they certainly have more important things to do. Missiles from below come slinging through. Mostly shot down out of the sky, no substantial damage dealt. More nukes. More inconsequential damage dealt. Uh-oh. Oh, that was close. I thought that energy shield was going to get taken out there, which was about to expose those missiles to even more damage. Interesting note, Tar is actually recovering their economy. They've managed to reconstruct two mines on their starter ball and get up to 4 mines on the central expansion. So Tar is coming back in terms of economy. Mind you, it's not anywhere near Team Gyat's economy here. Gyat sitting on maximum economy, maximum mines, with the vast majority of them upgraded. I'm wondering what Tar is going to do here, because these nukes are not working. Or at least they're not going to work in the long term. It's like it's not a consistent solution to the problems they're facing. Which is enough motivation to tech switch. The question is, how do they do so? Tar still has access to cannon technology. Oh, the energy shield falls and the lasers begin to follow up, doing whatever damage they can, which is not much to be fair. At least not in this context. More nukes. More splashing harmlessly on the front of unowned terrain. Mortars shot down to the sky in their entirety, which is a surprise given there's 8 mortars. I think it's 9 with the distraction mortar. You got full defending the current volley, the most recent volley of swarm missiles. Looks like Tar not reconstructing the energy shield, instead of just hard walling off with a standard solid materials. Is not terribly surprising given the context. Double buzzsaw, chopping off the defenses around some of those mortars. A sniper follow-up takes out 1 mortar, 2 mortar, and 3 mortar. Nope. Defense is online. Oh, 3rd mortar. Buzzsaw follow-up, opening up the mortars once again. I don't know if he's going to be spending time on the sniper when there's other things to do. Oh, yeah, and there go the missiles, taking out most of those defenses. It's not really enough to open up those missile launchers to destruction. Giat really needs to ramp up the devastation here. They are reconstructing their heavy weapons, getting their specifically their cannons, but allowing Tar to rebuild and actually get mines again is a mistake. That's, oh, here it comes again. Return to sender not perfect, and looks like it's a little deformed this time. Dealing, not much damage, because it just kind of went somewhere else and didn't hit anything of import. This is surprisingly close, because while Tar really doesn't have a solution to Butterdog, at least not a solution to break Butterdog's core here. Butterdog is down. Like, this is 1 core to 1 core. Giat has a single core remaining and it's on 13% HP. Oh, there's that hit that they were looking for. The beam penetrates, takes out 1 of the launchers. I deal a little bit more damage, but it's not enough to break it. Because yeah, if any of these nukes manages to make it over here and just slams right on the bottom, misses the return to sender, it slams into the bottom of Butterdog's core here, it's just dead. Like, Giat cannot take any more, realistically cannot take any more splash damage. It's just, they've taken too much damage over the course of the game. They have no more HP to spend. So Tar is really not out of it. It's just really difficult to see a situation where that happens. The chances of rolling that dice and landing the crit is a little low. If Tar was able to get, I don't even know, like this, what do you even do here? Cannon from below? Does Tar even know that they can do that? That they have an angle? Probably not. The triple plasma. That's a horrible sign to see when you're team Dorset, because that means that they've got money to spend. A beautiful shot. That's the shot Giat wanted to make. That's what they needed to make to close out this game. Taking out 4 mines. Team Dorset loses half of their economy in that 1 volley. If Team Giat can continue that trend, removing the last of their mines, they should be able to... There it is. Tar unable to successfully repair and defend those swarm missile launchers. They lose yet another nuke. Mortars are flying and dying, not making it across the field once again. Mortars have not been a particularly effective investment for Giat here. Another heavy hit. completely losing access to the central ball. Tar's central ball has taken enough damage, and they've lost complete control over it, now having to rely on mundane connections rather than shotgun barrels. That last volley of cannons completely shearing off the top. Everything in the central ball has been destroyed. This is how it begins to wind down. Not enough economy to reconstruct and repair things. Getting drilled away on the edges. This is how you wipe out a core that has been tucked back away in the corner. Now Team Gyat's going to be able to just burn through things. You see, there's that shot they needed. The primary ball has been lost. At least its economy has been lost. That's knocking Tar down to a total of 3 mines, which, for those who are familiar, or perhaps even if you're not familiar, that's not enough. It's not enough to repair things. We're seeing Tar is selling off the nuke. This is to reclaim some of their money, hoping to give them enough time to reconstruct their economy and generally defend themselves. The plasma beam once again disconnecting. There's not a whole lot of benefit to reconnecting the central orb right now, other than gaining access to that technology, which is something that they're not currently using. So I think they're just having that so they can do a quick reaction if necessary. But those mortars are making it across, and that's it. Mortars from above. Team Gyat wins round 2. Ladies and gentlemen, we're off to round 3 in this best of 3, the deciding match between Team Dorset and Team Gyat. The sides have stayed the same. Here on the left-hand side, in the blue, it is Team Dorset, playing as the Shoutout commander. Commander choice I don't often see here in the FPL. We're going to get to see what they do with that. They're playing against their opponent's Team Gyat. Running the Architect commander this time around. One of my favorite commanders. It's great for wood spam, great for most things, really. More of a generic commander, doesn't have any specialty. We tend to see it lean more economic heavy. I guess the closest to a specialty. Oh, well, that's painful. Mistake there, losing access to that metal branch, and thus much of the economic boost for it. Butterdog getting a little spindly there with their fort, and they're reconciling that right now. After a grueling match, it looks like Team Gyat's gonna go in for the kill this time around. I am curious to see how this match plays out. Remember, we've got more matches just like this coming up soon. And by soon, I mean coming up this Saturday, as in terms of this release, as of the time of release of this video, we have the Forts Pro League playoffs starting, which means you get to see the best of the best and all the memes and rounds that come with it. We've already had quite a meme-filled adventure so far with the ball swing in the previous round. Unsurprisingly, we do see the munitions plants placed down for Team Dorset on both flares. The Scattershot Commander benefits, I guess benefits is the right word, it affects cannons. So when you see the Shoutout Commander, you expect to see cannons, and that's exactly what we're seeing here. Very likely we'll see 20mm spam, as that is the most affected weapon, most strongly benefited. Additionally, Tar's gotten a little spindly with their base, a little greedy with it. Not super greedy, just did partially defend against that tactic. Almost didn't survive, but Tar will survive this, and I believe Gengar's not going to trap the same target again because they realize it's he's defended against such things. Similarly, Jim is also defended against such things. So Gengar is not going to find purchase with their weaponry. I hesitate to call this a cheese. It's not really a cheese so much as attempting to keep their opponents honest for skeletonizing their bases. Team Dorsnip not having it, not dealing with that, or at least not falling for that trick this time. It's worth noting that Team Team Yacht is going for another one of these strategies with swarm missiles from one player and lasers with the second. Magic is not going to be as effective on this map owing to the positions of the forts, various bases, but a classic combo. It's won many a tournaments. It is quite this strong. We see it all the time. We should see a 4th swarm missile launcher placed down here and 2 portals, one for each pair. This will enable multiple launches from deep within the base. It's a strategy I've seen more often recently. It's quite an effective one, honestly. I mean, four missile launchers is kind of a lot. I always hesitate when I see the 4th launcher, because it's very rare that I see the 4th launcher actually used due to the massive energy costs. Because running any portals, let alone 2 sets of portals, is super expensive. So, it just takes an incredible amount of energy production to make that happen. And given that, well, we're running back turbines here, it's going to be like the 15-minute mark before we see enough energy production to reliably fire those weapons with any consistency. Mind you, you don't need to fire them all the time. Most of the time when we see this, we'll just see the players build up enough of a bank so they can fire them all simultaneously once, and then, wait 4 minutes before having to fire them again, before being able to fire them again. So that's likely to be the case here as well. And do we actually see? Yeah, we actually see more batteries here for that purpose exactly. As Gengar is just not going to have the energy production to rapidly fire them. As opposed, this is a different tactic as opposed to just, oh my lord, 3 nukes. That's so expensive. I was about to say, this is a different tactic as opposed to just building 2 of them and just constantly launching them, which is similar levels of effective, given that you have, especially given that you have Fire Beam there to support. Mind you, again, this map, the Fire Beam angles are not going to be great for covering the nukes, so we can't really expect it to give them the coverage that they would truly want with this. Unsurprisingly, we do see 20mm coming out of all players on Team Dorsnip. The Shoutout commander gives empowered 20mm as well as a lot more scatter fire for them, so it makes them quite effective. This range is close enough that the scatter on the 20mm, especially empowered, will not be debilitating. The fire beam does a great job of shutting down those projectiles. Do we have a sniper follow-up? Looks like no, but there might be a flak angle on this, but it's not going to be enough. The flak angle is there, touches it, doesn't break it. Not at all surprising. Commander active ability for Team Gyat's, bonus build speed for everything. We get to see those hard walls reconstructed almost instantaneously, making sure that plasma remains alive and intact. Unfortunately, loss of the fire beam means loss of this madman. Gengar going up to 6 launchers. One of these launchers is not going to work because there's a fort in the way, but 6 launchers, that's ambitious. To say the least. You see the 20mm firing. This is not going to deal substantial damage so much as charge up the commander active ability. The general tactic for the Shoutout commander is use the 20mm to charge up the commander active ability and then activate the commander, causing the 20mm to become empowered. So the next time you fire them, more damage. And then you just repeat that process over and over again until there's no more opponents. It's terribly effective. There was a time when it was one of the most overpowered strats in the game. As it stands, Team Dorsnip is just spamming out more 20mm. Can't tell if they're trying to aim for those exposed missile launchers or what. We don't see a sniper in play. But Gengar has activated their portals, and with it, we're going to see some some missile launches here. I am concerned about the placement of Gengar's portals. I understand. Okay. I understand that the portals are most conveniently placed right there, but that's you can just put them anywhere. Like, there's no reason you have to put them there. You can put them behind a door in the front of your base. That way they don't, you know, nuke your teammate accidentally. Alright, do we see... Alright, Jim, you gotta fire those 20s. Do it. Got a second left, so you don't have an angle on the lower fort, which is, I think, what you were aiming for. Jim doesn't really have the power for it either. That's unfortunate for Jim, and you see them expanding their energy production to assist with that problem. The shotgun from Team Gyat has been terribly effective. Did this mad lad just upgrade their miniguns, upgrade their MGs to miniguns? So we're going to see a little bit of manual anti-air here, which is a decision. Not a bad one either. Alright, I like to see this. We see the nukes have been replaced with direct fire nukes. Once again, Gengar not able to support rapid fire here of those missile weapons. The portal's getting revealed. We do see a few shots sent back through them, dealing damage to the missile launchers. Interesting. Gengar... So, one of the strengths of this strategy is because there's no direct-facing weapons, and you can just hardwall everything and you have absolutely zero weaknesses on the fort. Even if you do decide to direct portal your nukes, the worst-case scenario is those shots get redirected back into the top of the foundations, destroying the nukes but dealing no other damage. However, given the raw firepower of triple empowered 20 mils, they just kind of deal a lot of damage, and Gengar survives, but oh boy was that a lot of damage. Gengar's trying to recover here. Note the presence of the energy shields. That's because 20 mils get reflected off of them, just like most other small arms. Note that Team Dorset has already developed EMPs to counter this. The question is, do those EMPs make it across the field? And what does Gyat do about that? Gyat does have a little bit of anti-air, but it's not a lot of anti-air. 20mm splashing from on high. Building up that commander active. One more shot should take out that plasma, and it does. That's going to set Butterdog back a little bit. Reduce the total damage output of Team Gyat. The EMP does not make it across the field. That's going to harm Dorset's ability to deal damage to Gengar. Butterdog firing one of their remaining plasmas. Butterdog's still sitting on 2 plasmas, so they still have a lot of damage output, but those 20s are starting to ramp up their damage. He's getting hit by 5 of them now, which is a lot of damage. It looks like Butterdog, the lower fort in the red, is the primary target for focus fire at this stage of the game. Which means... Oh... Well, that's tempting. Yeah, I was gonna say, with those energy shields offline, you should probably hit Gengar there. Just because, you know, target of opportunity. Just keep those energy shields down while you can. There you go, 20 mils finally dealing enough splash damage to take out one of them. One of those energy shields, which is a good start. However, this will split the damage. Split the damage between the forts. A door snipe. Door snip getting door sniped. Tara losing one of their cannons. In exchange, that cannon did manage to break a couple fire beams from Butterdog, which is not. It's a trade. Those shotgun blasting 20s dropping into the top of Butterdog's base, hitting a lot of the internals, taking out about a third, closer to a quarter of the energy production. This is an absolute slugfest is what this is. Gengar's thus far has been almost entirely unable to launch their nukes, owing in part to power issues and in part to, well, base issues, base integrity issues. His Butterdog is now barely hanging on as they have been blasted to near submission by rapid application of kinetics. Gengar even losing one of his portals in the process. Double nuke flies across the sky, double nuke taken out of the sky. Gengar really needs to get those portals activated and fired more frequently. The lack of constant pressure from those nukes is a problem. It is a problem for Team Gyat, and they need to fix that quickly. As Butterdog's core is all but completely exposed. The defense is barely holding on. Butterdog will not be long for this world. They need to do something to stop this kind of pressure. EMP lands. Shutting down the energy production, but not the defenses around the energy production. Don't see that every day. Looks like the portals are almost... Oh, there's some beautiful energy shields, by the way. That will near perfectly defend Butterdog from those 20 mils. And EMP shuts it down. Well, that's devastating. Butterdog now has a single piece of armor between their core and the impending kinetics. Gengar has an opportunity to fire here, and it looks like they will. Thank you. The first time we see triple nuke flying across the sky. And one lands, second lands. Massive damage. Tar taking chunks out of their base. Unfortunately for Team Gyat, their opponents have had such a long time to build up. Oh, both players on Team Gyat are vulnerable to defeat right now. It is close. It is very close. Gengar taking massive damage, losing substantial amounts of their economy, and losing access to their missile launchers. That was a heavy hit. Butterdog, on the other hand, just had their defenses breached, their core touched but not destroyed. Another door snipe. Tar once again loses a cannon, but Jim focus firing Gengar's economy. Gengar is in a world of hurt, down to completely out of money and no way of getting money. They're likely going to have to sell off their frontal defenses in order to get access to their base again, which is not a position you want to be in. Waiting to see those blue selling symbols to see which direction Gengar decides to go. Boy. Howitzer coming out from Tar, and extraordinary threats. Howitzer from Jim. Good hit. How are you hanging on with this? That is... Oh, he's letting it go. I think that's a mistake. I think he needs to sell off. Yeah, he needs to sell off the front parts to get his money back. It was absolutely required that he dump at least some of the weight there, otherwise he risks just getting torn off their base. But not recovering those expensive energy shields and pushing that money into economic recovery is going to hurt. Minigun's actually doing great work. Oh, that was so close to lethal. If those plasmas had been more perfectly aligned, that would have gone straight to Katar's core. As Gengar takes another incredible amount of damage, and that's it. Gengar is torn off the top of their base, leaving only one player remaining for Team Gyat. Butterdog stands alone against Team Dorsnip. I wonder, you can totally reach up there and grab this. You're not going to own it for very long. Once again, Tar is penetrated. Their foundations hit, losing a mine and a half. That is concerningly close. Had those been aimed slightly differently, that could have been... Oh, probably not game ending, but... Oh. Well, that's just it then. Butterdog loses both of their heavy weapons. Butterdog has been completely defanged. Gyat has no weapons left. No more bites behind their bark. How will they recover from this? I think they're gonna suffer a fatal dose of lead poisoning, as Team Dorsnip has their commander ability charged and their weapons fully operational. Looks like the only thing between them and victory is having the energy production to actually wield their weapons, which they're working on right now. There it is. Commander ability activated. What kind of damage output are we going to see here? Looks like Jim focusing on their economic developments rather than focusing on their firepower. Minigunners upgrading. Coming online right now. We do see Butterdog reclaiming the eviscerated husk of their teammate. Looks like Team Dorsnip is not going to contest that right now, though I suspect they will want to in the near future. These snipers from Butterdog have been on point. Very much so out of spite. Again, the door snipe. Butterdog has done terrible, terrible things to Tar over the course of this match. Oh lord. Suddenly, it's suddenly suddenly door snipe out of nowhere. It is worth noting that Butterdog did reclaim Gengar's weaponry, and with it, the portal and the nuclear option, which they can use right now, and are using right now, sending 2 nukes toward Dorsnip's direction. A little bit of manual anti-air from those minigunners is enough to shut it out of the sky. Fire beams defending against some of those 20s, but there's a lot of 20s. This man refuses to let Tar have weapons. Another door snipe. This is why I never count out players who have a plasma, especially if they also have a nuke. Because nukes just always have a chance of landing and always have a chance of dealing damage. And where they can deal damage, they can end the game. But plasmas are just the premium most door sniping weapon. Which means like every 30 seconds, Team Dorsnip can just lose a weapon because Butterdog exists. Which is a great way of evening the odds. And so far, Butterdog's been doing a great job of that. Ridiculous. Here we have another portal being reconstructed for Butterdog, looking to utilize their once teammates' heavier missile weapons. And unsurprisingly, we do see the developments of buzzsaw technology from Team Dorsnip, as they, I think, are not interested in dealing with nukes in the foreseeable future. So they want to chop that off, give a little buzz cut off the top of their fort there. Another heavy activation of damage from Team Dorsnip, and we see Butterdog once again losing their plasma and their lower expansion, which is painful because that's where their plasma was and where they're building the portal to launch the nukes. So not having access to that means no damage for at least the next minute or so. Butterdog also doesn't currently have access to their commander ability, and thus does not have the ability to rapidly reconstruct. Once again, the anti-air shuts down the Howitzer. 20mm, slowly rebuilding up the commander active ability so they can get that burst damage in. The portal has been reconstructed, so once that sniper completes, we should see another volley of nukes fly. looks like, yeah, they're trying to shut down that nuclear option. I think Team Dorset has correctly identified the only damage output Butterdog can do right now is via nukes. So removing the nukes removes Butterdog's and thus the entirety of Team Gyat's ability to deal damage. Butterdog's defenses have been penetrated, 20 millimeters directly impacting the core, bringing it down to 64%. Machine guns, or miniguns try to follow up, but it has been defended as the nukes once again fly across the fields. Firebeam defending. Damage dealt, massive damage dealt. Tar surviving barely, and the 20 mil dusting does it. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure to hit that follow button, make sure to hit that subscribe button, make sure to hit that like button, and make sure to join us this weekend for the start of the playoffs of the Forts Pro League.